When I think of who impacted my life as a mentor, a friend, a teacher, I think of Vivian Coleman. I don't remember a day in my life not knowing Vivian.
I met Vivian after I got out of the Army. I had taught Sunday school to junior high school boys. And Vivian came, as I remember, as a children's coordinator. She was a friend of my mother's before she was a friend of mine, and my mother loved her.
So I met Vivian when I came to college. It was in the mid-'80s, and she was the college leader here at First Baptist. She and Tony were leaders together. She also did a lot of stuff with BSU that I was involved with as well.
So Vivian was a special friend to me, but I knew her first as being with the college ministry at First Baptist. When I was in college, we went to another church, but we would come to First Baptist for activities for the communities. She was just always here whenever there was a college activity going on.
I've known Vivian Coleman ever since I went to this church. I started going to this church when I was 4, and I always have memories of her and Tony sitting in her office doing work of some kind of ministry.
As a young girl to a youth to an adult, she was my youth director, and she taught me not only to love the Lord, but how to serve the Lord, as she taught many.
Vivian had a way of coming up with good things to do with the kids. If they were going to have a banquet, why, Vivian would say, okay, what do you want the theme to be? They would come up with the theme. She would come up with some ideas, and then the work began.
She gave us responsibilities. We didn't just go on retreats or camps or trips. We had to plan them.
As I got older, especially into high school, and I was actually able to be in a college group when her and Tony still taught the Sunday school class and did the Bible study, I got to know her better. And she actually, I consider her my spiritual mom. You know, I never had my family go to church with me. It's always been on my own. And so she's always looked out for me, and she really helped disciple me as I got older.
She had a knack for seeing things in you that you didn't see in yourself.
So we were rejuvenating the college ministry here, and we were going to provide meals for them. So this was our outreach to them. And she just kind of drugged me alongside her. And I don't know how, except that she's so magnetic, and I wanted to be a part of whatever she was doing because she just had that way about her. Whatever she was doing, it was obviously from God, and I wanted to be a part of that.
And she was just such a fun-loving person. She was so infectious to be around. Anywhere Vivian was, I wanted to be.
Of course, she had been to Moody Bible Institute. She had done mission trips up in Michigan or Minnesota or someplace. She just rubbed off on people she was around.
I'm blessed to have this book that belonged to Vivian, her travel Bible. And the impact she had on my life came from Scripture. She carried out the Great Commission to its fullest. She loved the church as best as Christ loved the church, as anyone I know. And she taught me the same as she taught many people.
That was the thing that I remember one time somebody asking, you know, what does it take to really have a good youth group or something like that? And she says you have to love the kids. That if you love the kids, they'll love you. And she did.
She also knew us personally. We were her kiddos. That was a term that she used a lot with everybody. And she came in and greeted us every Sunday morning.
I think there are several parts of Viv still here at our church. Some of the things I know was missions. She was such a missions-oriented lady, not only through the Baptist women, but she sent me on my first mission trip.
Giving was important for her. She taught me how to give. I love the story of how when she was a young girl and she saved her babysitting money, and she gave 10% of the money she earned for babysitting as a young girl to an offering. And Vivian went to church on her own as a young girl. It wasn't something her family did as an activity together. God found her and she gave back.
She was really good at discipling. We're getting ready to do D groups or disciple groups here at First Baptist, and those are just groups where we're doing life and living together. And Vivian was definitely the epitome of D groups. She would disciple you and you wouldn't even know that she was doing that, because she was just doing life with you and walking with you day by day, just like Christ would do with his disciples. And so she was very rich in that.
After she was no longer youth director, she did that with the Sunday school teachers of this church. She met with them regularly. She poured into them. She had them over for meals in her home. So she was always loving her church members of every generation and serving them to the fullest because she loved her church.
From the time I started working with her till the time she passed away, we were kind of a team.
But also just pouring yourself and your life into ministry and into people. She poured her life, I know, into the youth group here for years that she was a part of, and into college kids. I can't think of the countless number of college kids who she touched.
The kids that went through her reign, I guess you might say, at First Baptist, many of them are pillars in the churches they've gone to.
She was smart at picking people that had the gifts that were needed to pull something off. She did it beautifully every time.
She just loved life to the fullest. Even when she became older and was diagnosed with her arthritis, it didn't stop her. She was determined to serve the Lord, and we were her kids.
Here's why. Wade came to me one time and says, "How come you and Vivian never got married?" And I said, well, I think maybe it was because we both loved the kids at the church so much and were so busy with them that we just spent our time doing that and doing the Lord's work instead of getting married. But she was always my very best friend I ever had.
So in Vivian's last days, we knew that the time was drawing near. And so several of us, we knew her legacy. We knew her heart, we knew she loved music, and so we were in her room and gathered around her with hymn books, and we sang her into heaven. And it was a beautiful time, because that peace that comes over a face that's with Jesus, just couldn't mistake it.
I have no idea what impact she has had on the world, and I don't know that anyone else will. But she was a great impact. After all, she was here for, gosh, what, 40 years? I think more than 30 years as director of something. And she didn't, after retiring, she didn't let up.
I've always said every church needs a Tony and a Viv. And so that's why I named my daughter Vivian, is after her. And so our church, in my mind, still has a Viv, and my daughter has some big shoes to fill someday.